This page features the front cover of Nintendo official magazine with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 taking center stage, promising extreme sports heaven with the king of the skate park. It also highlights ISS2 with an exclusive first play of Cube's Fab Footy Fest, along with FIFA World Cup and Die Hard. There's also the usual magazine fair news, previews, tips, and the best Pokemon info. The next page advertises a competition called Cubics Build a Bot. First prize is to have your robot appear in the Cubic series, plus loads of great runners-up prizes. The ad breaks the contest down into 3 easy steps. Name your robot, explain what it does, and draw a picture or describe it. Closing date is April 15, 2002, and it's open to UK residents. The bottom of the page shows the Cartoon Network logo, along with Cubics game logos and logos for 3Do, PC CD-ROM, PlayStation, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance. This page is the cover of the April 2002 issue of Nintendo magazine, with the bold claim, "Here's why we've always been the UK's biggest selling Nintendo 64 and Nintendo magazine." The cover features the team behind the magazine, all pointing towards the reader, along with their names: Tim, Barry, Mark, Rich, Sean, Nicola, Dave, Tamzin. The cover promotes 6 promises. The magazine keeps every issue, including being the first to cover new GameCube and Game Boy Advance games and products, providing the most screenshots, being easy to understand, offering reliable tips and cheats, and trustworthy writers, ending with, "It isn't worth buying any other magazines." There's a preview of what's inside, including Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, ISS2, FIFA World Cup, and Die Hard, along with a Get in Touch with Us section, with contact details for by post and email. Finally, it has logos for Nintendo 64, Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance. The next page is the contents page of the magazine. It highlights upcoming coverage, including Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for the GameCube, promising hidden characters, 500,000 point tricks, and secret levels. ISS2 for the Nintendo GameCube is also featured. The page also lists game news, with titles like 2002 FIFA World Cup, Battle Housein, Bloody Roar Extreme, Burnout, Donald Duck Quack Attack, Driven, Lord of the Rings Part 1, NBA Courtside 2002, Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, Top Gun Combat Zones, Turok Evolution, Vex Wizards, and Die Hard Next Generation. This page is a mixed bag of goodies. Reviews kick things off with Super Mario Advance 2, which they reckon is one of the best Super Mario adventures on the Game Boy Advance. Head over to page 22 for more on that. Other reviewed games include Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, and Sonic Advance. Plus, there are 20 more GBA and GB Color reviews including Tekken Advance, Rogue Spear, Dark Arena, and Rayman 2 Forever, with the overload on page 37. Blagfest is where you can snag free stuff this month, including Lego Bionicle GBA games, Jackie Chan action figures, Simpsons videos, and even spy cameras and goggles. Page 82 is the place to be for those. Game guides promise to help you win every time, with Super Mario Advance being busted open in their special collector's edition minimag. Official tips on page 64, covers Wario Land 4, Monsters Inc., Dark Arena, and more. If you think you have some gaming wisdom, share your tips on page 68 to win a prize bundle. Page 70 is where your scores will be featured as they prepare for GameCube. Finally, WWF Heroes features Billy Kidman this month. Turn to page 98 for all you need to know about this ace brawler. This page is a full-page advert for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, reviewed earlier in the magazine. The advert proclaims the game is a big game, with new levels and hardcore action. Game info includes that it is published by Activision. It is a skateboarding sim released on May 3rd for the Nintendo GameCube. The next page continues the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 hype, with the headline, "Skate or Die." The review raves about the game's cool graphics, soundtrack, and playability, claiming it's one of the best-selling games ever. The reviewer is excited about the GameCube release, especially after the limited availability of the Nintendo 64 version. The review promises ultra-hot skate action when the game hits shelves on May 3rd. Screenshots show in-game footage of Tony Hawk shredding, and a call-out urges fans to get excited, because the King of the 900 is back. A final note encourages players to practice as much as possible to succeed in the game. This page features Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, diving into the intro movie, skaters, and game modes. The Let's Go section highlights the amazing intro movie that sets the mood for skating. It's longer than previous FMV clips and packed with crazy moves, tricks, and a look at the skaters' motivations. Strong Squad showcases the diverse selection of skilled skaters, each with unique stats and tricks. Players can improve their skater by collecting stat points throughout the levels, or create their own skater from scratch. Get Out There details the main single-player options: career, winning medals and unlocking secrets; single session, practicing levels under career mode conditions; free skate, unlimited practice for cool grinds and gaps; and tutorial, learning the basics. The reviewer suggests creating your own skater if you aim to complete the game fully. The next page showcases some of the levels in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, calling them Level Best, and highlighting how varied and engaging they are. The text promises loads of gaps and rails, and levels that feel completely different. The page gives a quick peek at stages like Foundry, Canada, Rio, Suburbia, Airport, Skaters Island, Los Angeles, and Tokyo. Each level gets a short description, like Foundry being great for starting your boarding adventures, and Los Angeles being the craziest level, where you cause earthquakes and stop bank robberies. This page dives into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, with A Life of Grind. It emphasizes stringing tricks together to rack up massive scores, especially with levels designed for continuous grinding. The article highlights that a quick tap on the GameCube controller is required to manual your way to your next destination. The page features screenshots of Darth Maul skating in the Tokyo Mega Mecha Mayhem competition. The screenshots show him doing various tricks and grinds, emphasizing the importance of balance. The article jokes that it would be easier if he put that lightsaber down. The next page continues its coverage of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, featuring Darth Maul. The screenshots break down a successful run, starting with his first grind, filling the special meter, a topside grind, and finally reaching the victor. The text humorously notes that it's a gold medal-winning performance, and warns against underestimating the power of the dark side. This page is about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3. It explains how to create your own skate park with the course editor, and mentions the many two-player modes available, like Horse, Trick Attack, and Graffiti. It also reveals some secrets to unlock, such as the Darth Maul character, Wolverine, Officer Dick, and classic courses like the Warehouse level. The magazine thinks Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is gaming perfection. The next page showcases a full-page advert for THQ's Advanced Fun on the Game Boy Advance. It features game covers such as Star Wars, Jedi Power Battles, MotoGP, Hot Wheels, Burning Rubber, and Monsters, Inc. Game Boy Advance. Additionally, some other titles are Boxing Fever, Wild Thornberries, Chimp Chase, F-14 Tomcat, and Filer Decathlon. It points to THQ's website. This page features ISS International Superstar Soccer for the Nintendo GameCube. It's flagged as a big game, with gameplay, moves, and goals tested. The game is developed by Konami, and falls into the sports sim genre, with a release date of May 2002. The text suggests that if you're a football fan considering buying Nintendo's new console, the GameCube, ISS2 might be the excuse you need. The next page is all about ISS2 big game on the GameCube. Apparently this game is the daddy of all football sims, rocking the GameCube with ramped-up playability and next-gen graphics. There are a few screenshots, with captions praising the graphics and player detail. It boasts intuitive controls, realistic action, and incredible multiplayer battles, even suggesting it's hard to believe you're not watching an episode of the Premiership. This page is focused on ISS2, hyping up the GameCube's graphical prowess and the realism of the game. The reviewer is drooling over the improved graphics, player detail, and cutscenes, suggesting it blurs the line between playing a video game and watching real football. They're particularly impressed with the facial expressions, the fabric textures on the kits, and the authentic player behavior, even when they're acting like overpaid babies after a foul. Critique tier. The next page is all about ISS2, big game on the GameCube. It kicks off with a look at the 64 international teams, boasting that most players have their proper names now thanks to FIFA's backing. So Longshore and Seringham. If names are off, you can tweak them in the player edit menu. Then it highlights the game's 5 gameplay modes, like Friendly Matches, International Cup, their World Cup, Custom League, World League, and Training. The article then goes on to talk about how the stadiums in ISS2 aren't based on real locations, giving the designers free rein to create some awesome grounds. The reviewer thinks they're perfect for some sizzling soccer antics. There's also a mention of the goal celebrations and the detailed graphics, especially when paused in replay mode. This page is dedicated to the GameCube controller for ISS2, highlighting its features and button functions within the game. It points out how comfy the controller is, and talks about how to perform actions like sprinting with the L button, but not too much, or your player will tire, pulling off tight defenses using the Y button, and getting the ball in the back of the net with the B button, which also performs a sliding tackle. The thumbstick is being tweaked for tactical changes, team formations, and attack strategies. There's also a section on scoring from free kicks, which has been made easier, and how you can bend the ball around the defensive wall. This page is all about the special moves in ISS2, boasting nifty footwork and how to deliver the perfect through ball. The special moves have been improved. Shimmies, stepovers, feigns and spins will get you past the defenders by using the Z button alongside the 3D stick. Bicycle kicks and diving headers are pulled off by varying when you press the shoot button in relation to the ball. The R button is to instantly swap between players. Pressing a will pass the ball to your nearest player, also your soft tackle. If you want to play a lobbed ball, then the X button is best. The replay action is a good opportunity to brag about an amazing goal you scored during a heated ISS2 match, and you can move the camera around the pitch to almost anywhere to get the best view. Slowing the replay down to a snail's pace is a great way to rub your mate's nose in it. This page showcases ISS2 for the GameCube, touting it as the best-looking football simulation ever released. It spills the beans on hidden secrets within the game, like unlocking special teams, such as the Brazilian legends. Apparently, if you're good enough, you might even find Diego Maradona and Pelé lurking in the game's depths. The page bigs up the commentary in the game, featuring Mark Lawrenson and John Champion, plus Carl Chapman as the stadium announcer. Because the GameCube can hold loads of data, the commentary shouldn't get too repetitive. The reviewer thinks the version they played might have been early, but they still liked what they saw. While it might not be as detailed as FIFA World Cup visually, ISS2 is looking like a solid bet for the world champion in terms of gameplay. The next page is a blast from the past, showcasing a variety of ringtones, picture messages, and logos you could download to your phone back in the day. Remember Nokia's? There's a list of chart hits and hottest tones available as ringtones, with artists ranging from Destiny's Child to Robbie Williams. The page also advertises a chance to win a Nokia 5510. Picture messages are advertised for your screensaver, and logos like Blink-182 and Papa Roach were available. Finally, there's a logo maker, where you could customize your own logo. There is also an advert to win a laptop computer and game. All this cost £3 a pop, ask the bill payer. This page is filled with game reviews, focusing on titles for the Game Boy Advance. It kicks off with Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2, which gets an awesome award from Nintendo Official Magazine because it's a classic platformer transformed into a miniature treasure. There's a scoring system outlined, and a list of other reviewed games which include Army Men, Operation Green, Boxing Fever, Broken Sword, Cruisin' Velocity, Dark Arena, F-14 Tomcat, Fila Decathlon, MotoGP, Rogue Spear, Sonic Advance, Tekken Advance, and Rayman 2 Forever. It also makes a point of saying that the magazine promises honest opinions from their expert Nintendo players. This page features a review of Super Mario Advance 2. The reviewer notes that in the original Super NES game, Luigi was a slightly sad deputy plumber, but in the Game Boy Advance version, players can choose to play as Luigi from the start of each level. The page states, when Luigi knocks a prize block, he releases all the coins, making him quicker than his slow coach brother. The page includes a picture of Mario riding Yoshi. The reviewer thinks this is an awesome adventure. The next page dives into the details of Super Mario Advance 2. We're told the Boo Buddies are kinda cute despite their spooky intentions, and the Cape Feather is as magical as ever. There's also a snippet about how the game's soundtrack has been perfectly preserved and is ready to make us smile. Finally, the reviewer cheekily warns that despite the colorful visuals, this game can be fiendishly difficult, and if you manage to finish without swearing, you're a saint. This page offers a review of Super Mario Advance 2. Storming the castle discusses Bowser's numerous castles guarded by Koopas. We're told that after some lava dodging and thwomp dodging, you get to free Yoshi's dinosaur pals. The review highlights some tricky obstacles in Bowser's castles, like moving platforms and ceiling spikes. And a final tip, bouncing Koopas into lava is a good move. Super Mario Worlds praises the game's locations and bright colors, calling them lip-smacking, sugar-coated treats. There are 9 worlds, including a secret one. Walking with Dinosaurs focuses on Yoshi, calling him one of the coolest and most adorable heroes ever created. We get tips on finding Yoshi, using his tongue, and even finding baby Yoshis. We're reminded that Yoshi's useful, and can even fly with Yoshi wings. Finally, a section on multiplayer notes that 4 players can battle using GameLink cables in a bonus Mario Bros option, but it's not as exciting as the main adventure. If so, Borington Mario Bros option. The next page dives into the nitty-gritty of Super Mario Advance 2, with sections titled Finders Keepers, Evil Doers, and Blocking Off. Finders Keepers points out the main goal, rescuing Peach, of course. It mentions various items scattered throughout the levels, like mushrooms and 1-ups. The reviewer also notes, you can find 5 golden Yoshi coins in each stage to earn an extra life. Evil Doers humorously describes Mario's enemies, saying everyone loves to hate them. Koopa Troopers, Charging Chucks and Sumo Brothers all get a mention. Blocking Off discusses the dotted line blocks you encounter during the quest. The secret to filling them in involves finding the corresponding Switch Palace, accessed via a secret entrance. It gives tips such as that the end of the stripy tunnel inside the Switch Palace holds an enormous colored switch. Pressing the switch fills in the blocks in previous levels, opening up new areas. The page concludes with a game length assessment suggesting the Super NES game felt longer, but this is a massive undertaking to try and find every secret exit, collect all the coins and earn a perfect score. The game earns a glowing Nintendo Official Magazine Awesome rating of 94%. This page is a full-page advert for Star Wars Jedi Power Battles on Game Boy Advance, featuring Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn and Mace Windu. The tagline boasts, "Deflect, Defeat, Destroy," and promises the power of the Force is now available on the handheld console. The ad also shows gameplay screenshots, promoting battling droids and beasts through 10 levels and piloting the STAP to reclaim the streets of the Kekide. The next page is a review for Broken Sword, Shadow of the Templars on Game Boy Advance. It's labeled as the first GBA point-and-click adventure, promising to test your brain. The game info box lists the developer as BAM, and the price is £29.99, with a release date of March 29th. The reviewer says, it isn't an obvious choice for a GBA conversion, but Broken Sword looks like it could be an absolute cracker. The review summarizes the game's plot. George Stobart, an American tourist in Paris, witnesses a bombing and teams up with journalist Nicole to solve the mystery of a clown bomber and a stolen briefcase. It seems the case has links to the Knights Templar, who are trying to gain power in government and corporations. Screenshots show scenes from the game, and the review suggests that it's a thinking person's game that will keep you engaged for months. This page of the magazine continues the review of Broken Sword for the Game Boy Advance. See the Sights highlights the game's global journey, taking you from Paris to Ireland, Spain and Syria. The reviewer praises the detailed graphics, stating, "Ain't she a beauty," and noting the attention to detail, cool touches, and character animations. The reviewer describes how the GBA version differs from previous titles with getting around. Instead of moving a cursor, you move the character and points of interest are highlighted by special icons. The page concludes with the words, looks, indicating the visuals are lush and packed with color and detail. The next page dives deeper into Broken Sword on the Game Boy Advance. It highlights the functionality of the Gringbaz buttons, explaining their specific roles within the game. The L button reveals interactive elements, the R button accesses the item screen, the A button performs actions and uses items, the B button provides item details, and the Start button brings up the save menu. The reviewer also discusses the game's script, noting its divisive humor but praising the overall quality and distinct character personalities. They compare the game's feel to a sinister comedy in the style of The Mummy or an Indiana Jones film. Finally, the page touches on the game's excellent music, emphasizing its emotive soundtrack and its ability to compensate for the lack of speech. The music even provides helpful cues, indicating when the player is on the right track during puzzles. This page reviews Broken Sword on the Game Boy Advance, acknowledging that while the game looks and sounds great, its puzzle difficulty might frustrate some players. The puzzles require lateral thinking and trial and error, sometimes to a tedious degree. The reviewer advises talking to everyone and exploring everything. It's worth noting that the game's length is impressive. It scores an impressive 87%, calling the game an incredible achievement. The next page is a review of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 for the Game Boy Advance. The reviewer is pretty stoked, highlighting the detailed scenery, great animations, and vibrant colors that make it a looker on the GBA. The review claims the developers have taken all the good bits from THPS2 and built on it. It features 6 new levels. The game's packed with tricks, stunts, and tasks, some with bizarre names but doesn't feel confusing. The reviewer notes that the music is really bad, but thankfully there's an option to turn it off, but the sound effects are loud and clear. To complete each stage you need to perform awesome tricks and rack up high scores. Some stunts are harder than others. This page delves further into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, taking a closer look at the different levels on offer like Foundry, Suburbia, Rio, Airport, La and Tokyo, each with its own unique challenges. The review also offers tips on how to score big points by grinding and maintaining balance. It also touches upon the game's competition mode, where you've got 3 one-minute runs to impress the judges with your skating skills to unlock new levels. Finally, it points out that mastering the game's controls requires extreme dexterity, and that the game has plenty of content to keep players busy. The game gets a solid 91% and the Nintendo official magazine Awesome Award, praising its addictive gameplay and well-designed levels. The next page is a review of Sonic Advance on the Game Boy Advance, declaring that Eggman cracked, rings collected, animals saved. Sega's champion is here to gatecrash Nintendo's Game Boy Advance, and with his super speed, nothing's gonna stop him. The Game Info gives the price at £29.99 and states it's out now, giving the impression that it's a must-have title for this system, with the reviewer confidently stating that Sonic Advance is one of the most exciting GBA games. The preview highlights Sonic's lightning-fast speed and the ongoing battle against the evil Drive Eggman. It also mentions that players can play as Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, each with their unique abilities. The page showcases the bright and colorful graphics, with the reviewer suggesting that the worlds and characters look great. It also touches upon the various game modes, including Game Start, versus Biatinki, Time Attack, and a tiny Chaos Garden. The reviewer seems impressed with the variety of gameplay options. This page delves deeper into the world of Sonic Advance, starting with Sonic's team, where it highlights that each character has special powers to help you crack the stages. It then goes on to describe each character, such as Sonic, who can blast through each level, Tails, who's great for finding extra rings and can hover, Knuckles, the strong puncher who can glide and climb walls, and Amy Rose, who packs a punch with her mallet. The page then moves on to Bursting with Zones, describing the 14 stages in the game, from Neo Green Hill Zone to Casino Paradise Zone and Ice Mountain Zone. Screenshots show the different zones and gameplay features. Finally, it touches upon Eggman's creations, the tough robots Sonic faces, including Drive, Eggman himself in his fearsome tank. You'll even face a fake Knuckles robot in Angel Island Zone. Screenshots show different boss battles. The next page continues the Sonic Advance review. It kicks off with Getting Around, highlighting the exceptional GBA platforming and blistering speed of the game. It points out the downside that high speeds can make it hard to see enemies. There are screenshots of various zones, like loops, rails, water jets, banks, ziplines and pinball flippers in Casino Paradise Zone. The bottom half is all about Nintendo Link-Up, with the first look at how the GameCube and GBA Link-Up works. It mentions that Sonic Adventure 2 Battle is launching on May 3rd, and mentions some experiments at NOM. There are screenshots of the tiny Chaos Garden minigames, and the ability to transfer your trained Chaos into Sonic Adventure 2 Battle for some fun and insane challenges using a special link cable, described as a super cool feature. This page dives into some game reviews, starting with Sonic Advance's special stages, describing them as dazzling minigames hidden within each zone. It sounds like you grab rings on a snowboard and collect Chaos Emeralds to transform Sonic for the final battle. Next up is MotoGP, which the reviewer finds a bit too easy, even on hard mode, but highlights the fast-paced action and variety of tracks. Finally, there's Cruis'n Velocity, which doesn't sound too great. The reviewer calls it nothing short of appalling, with a slow sense of speed and dire car control. Looks like you'll be smashing into walls a lot. There's also the scores. Sonic Advance gets 90%, MotoGP gets 76%, and Cruis'n Velocity gets a measly 42%. The bottom of the page talks about game length in Sonic Advance, saying it's a portable joy and rewarding if you train your Chaos until May, when you can see them on the GameCube. The next page features a review of Tekken Advance for the Game Boy Advance, with the reviewer saying, Tekken is one of the best series of fighting games ever conceived. The review highlights the game's portability, calling it a brutal brawler on the go. They also comment on the game's graphics, noting that the fighters look amazing, but the backgrounds aren't as breathtaking, but still stating it is one of the best-looking games on the GBA. Despite this, the game apparently moves at a slick pace thanks to the controls. The review mentions that Tekken Advance doesn't skimp on gameplay modes, offering plenty of options and a decent multiplayer setup, including the Tekken Tag mode. However, the bad news is that there's only one hidden character, which is Heihachi, and one hidden gameplay mode, Team Battle, which robs the game of lasting appeal. There's screenshots of the gameplay, including Arcade Mode, VS Battle, Time Attack, Practice, Tag Battle, and Versus Tag. The price of the game is listed as £34.99, and the release date is the 29th of March. This review covers 3 Game Boy Advance games. Boxing Fever, 70%, offers first-person boxing with colorful graphics reminiscent of Punch-Out, featuring championship, single fight, and survival modes. Fila Decathlon, 77%, released March 28, is a fast-paced button-mashing sports game demanding quick reflexes. Tekken Advance receives the highest score at 86%, praised for its explosive gameplay, combos, and faithful adaptation of the Tekken series. While the limited GBA buttons reduce its depth compared to other versions, and the single-player mode lacks replay value, its multiplayer battles are highly recommended. The game features characters like Jin Kazama and Nina Williams, and is visually impressive despite a lack of hidden content. The next page is a review of Rogue Spear for the Game Boy Advance. The reviewer notes that it's not about gung-ho heroics but about outsmarting your enemy. Tom Clancy's books and games like Rainbow Six are mentioned as inspiration. The game involves picking a team of highly trained soldiers and completing risky missions. The review highlights the top-down perspective, exceptional detail, and use of color that enhances the atmosphere. It also covers team selection, where players choose from 28 different soldiers, with varying stealth, aim, health, and reflexes. The game includes assault, recon, sniper, and demolition specialists. You need to plan your outfit, as there are 5 different uniforms. The variety of missions is also praised. This page features a trio of Game Boy Advance reviews: Army Men, Operation Green, F-14 Tomcat, and a final verdict on Rogue Spear. Army Men Operation Green gets a score of 82%. It's more of the same green versus tan action, but with smarter enemies and more weapons. The reviewer was getting tired of Army Men games, but admits this one's a little better. 14 Tomcat scores 77%. It's a flight sim where you play an Ace F-14 pilot. The reviewer notes it's the Graber's first flight sim, and it's packed with features and weapons. However, getting to grips with the controls on the small screen is tough. Finally, Rogue Spear gets an 85% score. The reviewer emphasizes that it's an absorbing game that rewards forward planning. If you want a pick-up-and-play experience, this is not for you. The mission length is tough and time-consuming, requiring replay. The next page features a review of Dark Arena for the Game Boy Advance. It was supposed to be the first shooter on the system, but it ended up being the 4th. The game puts players against genetically engineered killing machines, with the tagline, "Kill all mutants." The reviewer notes the game isn't as atmospheric or fast as Doom, or as action-packed as ECKS vs. Sever, but the levels are cleverly designed. The review is titled Non-Stop Blasting, and the reviewer explains that the game has 20 levels of non-stop action, with little puzzle solving beyond finding keycards. There are 9 weapons to try, starting with a weak handgun. The screenshots showcase various weapons and enemies. The trusty assault rifle is a best friend, droids are annoying, and the rocket launcher is a letdown. The reviewer also mentions a guided missile, and a green goo-firing weapon. Bring to knee. The next page features a review of a few games. First up is Extreme Ghostbusters Code Ecto-1 for the Game Boy Advance. The reviewer isn't overly impressed, noting it doesn't bring anything new to the table, but might be worth a look if you enjoy basic running, climbing, and shooting. They highlight that Eduardo's Proton Pack is better than Kylie's, and the game doesn't offer much new. The game scores a modest 75%. Next we have Caesar's Palace Advance, also for the GBA. The reviewer finds the game bland, and the sound effects annoying, suggesting it might only appeal if you want to bet without a bank manager breathing down your neck. The game receives a score of 66%. There's also a section on Know Your Enemy from Dark Arena, detailing the different classes of mutants, hybrid, droid, and synthetic. The reviewer finds the enemy intelligence isn't too sharp, and laments that it doesn't quite live up to the brutality of Doom or the fun of Backtrack, scoring 86%. This page features a review of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius for the Game Boy Advance. The game's premise involves Jimmy rescuing his parents from alien invaders. The reviewer notes the gameplay is a standard platformer with item collection. The levels are described as varied and colorful, but the animation is a bit rough. Jimmy uses a laser and jetpack to navigate, while his robot dog, Goddard, has a grappling hook. Overall, the review seems lukewarm, commenting on the strangeness of a boy genius with a robotic dog and gravity-defying hair. The next page features reviews for 3 Game Boy Advance games. First up is Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, where the reviewer criticizes the graphics and sound, but hopes the movie's soundtrack is better. The game involves fixing Jimmy's spaceship to save his parents, and becomes a Space Blaster section, reminiscent of Iridium 3D. Next is Super Black Bass Advance. The reviewer is clearly not impressed, saying it's a dull fishing title with cartoony graphics and sickening music, advising even hardcore fishing fans to avoid it. Lastly, there's Invader. The reviewer describes it as a tough top-down shooter in the style of Xenon where you have to blast aliens in space. It looks great but slows down when too many enemies are on screen. The reviewer sounds fairly neutral, good but not great. This page is a review of the Wild Thornberrys, Chimp Chase, for the Game Boy Advance. The reviewer isn't overly enthusiastic, stating it's another one of Nickelodeon's line, heading to the GBA, and hoping it's better than Rugrats' Castle Capers. The plot involves traveling across continents to rescue Darwin the ape from evil monkey rustlers Kip and Biderman. It mentions you'll play as Darwin in South America, and later Eliza in the Arctic and Australian outback. The reviewer describes the graphics as some of the worst Game Boy Advance graphics we've ever seen, with some hideous animation. Ouch. The next page features a mix of reviews for different Game Boy Advance titles. First up is Chessmaster, getting a score of 70%. The reviewer notes that it might not be the most visually exciting game, but it'll appeal to fans of the classic board game. Then there's Virtual Kasparov, which scores a 72%. It's touted as being a bit different from other chess games due to its storyline. Finally, we have Penny Racers, earning a 60%. The reviewer says there are loads of cars to drive, but you'd have more fun playing with a wet sock. Ouch again. There's also a game-length warning for the Wild Thornberrys, advising players to have a spare Game Boy Advance on hand, as the game is infuriating. The reviewer's overall game score for the Wild Thornberrys is a measly 57%, citing gut-wrenching graphics and hideous unoriginality. This page is a review of Rayman 2 Forever for the Game Boy Color. The game is described as a limbless wonder returning to save the world from Razorbeard the pirate. It touches on the storyline, where robotic pirates have invaded Rayman's world and captured the hero, who is rescued by Glowbox and a silver lum, which allows him to punch. The review highlights the game's controls and gameplay mechanics, such as Rayman's abilities to punch, swing from ledges, and use his hair like a helicopter. The page includes screenshots from the game and mentions that it looks like a slightly less detailed version of the Game Boy Advance game. This page continues the review of Rayman 2 Forever for the Game Boy Color. It warns players to be careful and plan their moves, as the game can be challenging with sneaky traps. The review mentions ropes as a good way to plan your next move, and advises players to look out for switches to turn off electric barriers. The music is described as decent, but not outstanding. The reviewer says, to complete Rayman 2 Forever, you'll need patience, skills, and extra lives. Red orbs act as portals to bonus stages, where you race around collecting silver lums for extra lives. It concludes by saying the game is tough, and the magazine gives it an 82% score. The next page is a review of the Pokémon Mini, Nintendo's smallest console ever. The reviewer calls it a dinky toy and highlights its small size, saying it can fit in your fist. The page boasts game info stating it is from Nintendo, is a handheld, and is out now. The review emphasizes the console's cool features, including a built-in rumble pack and an infrared sensor, and is a portable adventure with the colorful Pokémon crew, and the magazine notes that it is not just another Digimon or Tamagotchi clone. It also notes that the console uses tiny cartridges that you can plug in and play. There are multiple screenshots of the Pokémon Mini and its games. The console colors are based on key characters like Smoochum Purple, Wooper Blue, and Chikorita Green. It can run for over 60 hours on a single AAA battery apparently. The colorful Pokémon Minis are all based on key characters, including the adorable Wooper. Many carts will be released for the Pokémon Mini, each one packed with monster action. The This page of Nintendo Official Magazine is the front cover for a special collector's edition minimag. It's all about Super Mario World and Super Mario Advance 2. The cover promises every world busted, secret levels revealed, bosses bashed, and of course, Princess Peach saved. Mario and Yoshi take center stage in the artwork, and there's a tiny Mario and Luigi running at the bottom. It boasts being 16 pages. The next page kicks off the Super Mario Advance 2 minimag, with a guide to cracking the tricky levels of Super Mario World. The contents promise every level tipped, secret exits exposed, special world unlocked, Star Road completed, and Bowser beaten. The reviewer boldly claims it's one of the greatest platform adventures of all time. The guide then dives into the way forward, explaining the multiple exits and secret levels. It also covers the Mario or Luigi choice, highlighting Mario's all-around skills and quicker speed versus Luigi's high jump and slippery grip. There's even a section on Not Just a Plumber, detailing power-ups like the Super Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Cape Feather. Essentially, it's a crash course on getting the most out of your Super Mario Advance 2 experience. This page is crammed with official tips for Super Mario Advance 2, specifically focusing on Yoshi's Island. It covers levels 1 through 4, and offers strategies for Iggy's Castle. For Yoshi's Island 1, it suggests spin jumping to reveal a secret area and avoiding bullets. For Yoshi's Island 3, it highlights the moving platforms and the usefulness of yellow bricks. Yoshi's Island 4 warns about watery graves and spiked balls, and in Yoshi's Island 2, it mentions throwing shells to kill Koopas for an extra life, and hatching the Yoshi. Tips for Iggy's Castle include climbing the fence to eliminate Koopas, and staying left to avoid being crushed. The guide also offers tips on defeating Iggy himself by stomping on his head and knocking him into the lava. The next page provides official tips for Super Mario Advance 2, this time taking us through Donut Plains. It gives guidance on navigating Donut Plains 1, finding the Green Switch Palace, uncovering a secret exit in Donut Plains 1, and tackling the Donut Plains Ghost House. It also includes tips for Donut Plains 2 and 3, such as avoiding getting squashed and finding hidden platforms. It suggests remembering to stomp on the flashing Koopas for a Cape Feather, and gives a sneaky way to a bonus room. This page continues the Super Mario Advance 2 coverage with official tips for Donut Plains 4, Secret Donut Plains House, Donut Plains Secret 1 including finding a secret exit, Donut Plains Secret 2, and Morton's Castle. The tips offer strategies for defeating Hammer Brothers, navigating underwater levels, finding secret exits, and defeating Morton by jumping on his head while avoiding his attacks. D'accès de Mibridjo. The next page delivers more official tips for Super Mario Advance 2, this time focusing on Vanilla Dome. It covers Vanilla Dome 1, guiding players through the maze of yellow blocks with Yoshi or a cape, and collecting the superstar while avoiding lava. It also details how to find the Red Switch Palace. Tips are provided for Vanilla Dome 1 secret exit, explaining how to use the Red Switch Palace to reach the key, then Vanilla Dome Ghost House and Vanilla Dome 2, giving advice on underwater stages and hostile fish. Finally, the page goes on to cover Vanilla Dome 3 and 4, and Vanilla Dome Secret 1. This page is packed with more official tips for Super Mario Advance 2, focusing on secrets and tricky spots in the Vanilla Dome area. First up is Vanilla Dome Secret 1 secret exit, advising you need to be caped Mario or Luigi to discover it. Then, Vanilla Dome Secret 2 warns about the jumping Koopas and suggests flying over them. Vanilla Dome Secret 3 is called a tough level if you don't have a cape. Next, Vanilla Dome Fortress highlights hazards that require top-notch swimming skills and tells you go right in the second area to find a door for a boss battle. Finally, Lemmy's Castle offers advice on evading Kamek's attacks and skipping to the Midway Gate, with a guide on how to defeat Lemmy himself. The next page keeps the Super Mario Advance 2 tips flowing, this time focusing on the Bridge World, which links Vanilla Dome to Cookie Mountain. Bridge 1 requires constant forward movement so you don't get squashed. Bridge 2 has pesky Super Koopas and a cape feather for easy flying. Soda Lake is full of killer fish and torpedoes, so caution is key. Fire Mario or Luigi are useful here, but the reviewer suggests Yoshi is better as he can take torpedoes. Cheese Bridge involves moving platforms and blades and a secret route to the giant gate. Cheese Bridge secret exit requires flying skills from the get-go. Finally, Cookie Mountain warns of Monty Moles and Sumo Brothers. Then there is Ludwig's Castle, with tips on dodging spiked balls, falling roofs and, finally, how to beat Ludwig himself by jumping on his head. This page offers tips for Forest of Illusion in Super Mario Advance 2. It highlights the tricky nature of the level and its multiple secret exits. Forest of Illusion 1 warns about wigglers, suggesting Yoshi to eat them, and advises using the jumping board and superstar. A secret exit involves a prize block with a power balloon. Forest of Illusion 2 features spiky urchins and grab blocks, advising caution and a path to the giant gate. Finding the Blue Switch Palace involves walking through a wall after the Midway Gate and using a key to escape a fish. Forest of Illusion 3 mentions bubbles containing super mushrooms. A secret exit involves climbing a tall green pipe and a secret room with a key and keyhole, requiring a spin jump. The page recommends keeping Yoshi for protection. The next page continues with Super Mario Advance 2 tips, this time focusing on the Forest of Illusion 4 and Roy's Castle. We've got advice on dealing with Lakitu and riding his cloud. For Forest of Illusion 4 secret exit, it points out a hidden area inside a purple pipe after the Midway Gate, accessible by riding Lakitu's cloud. The Forest of Illusion secret area section advises caution for small Mario and strategic platforming. For Forest of Illusion Fortress, it suggests crouching to avoid falling pillars and staying to the left to dodge sharp blades. The text continues to warn about the sharp, flashing blades in the next area, so be careful to avoid them and fly over the lava pit to a hidden area. Finally, Roy's Castle tips mention using a snake-like platform of blocks, picking up a switch block after the Midway Gate, and timing jumps to beat Roy before he attacks. Picking Halsey. This page is all about Super Mario Advance 2 and some tricky Chocolate Island levels. We're given tips on Chocolate Island 1, advising us to grab that super mushroom early on, and how to get shot forward from a pipe by holding A and B. Chocolate Island 2 secret exit is covered, emphasizing the need to be quick and get through the second area with plenty of time left on the clock. Chocolate Island Ghost House warns of Eries and Boos, suggesting we lure Boos to make a platform. Then we move on to Chocolate Island 3, where timing across the chasms is everything, and using Caped Mario is a good idea. Finally, Chocolate Island 3 secret exit highlights how to avoid that annoying loop by finding the right gate with a caped hero or Yoshi. Chocolate Island 2 is all about using Yoshi to bounce off enemies. The next page dives into more Super Mario Advance 2 levels and items to find. We've got tips for Chocolate Island Fortress, advising Caped Mario or Luigi for the obstacles and to watch out for those mini thwomps. Chocolate Island 5 suggests hitting the switch block for a bonus room. Chocolate Island 4 highlights the tricky tilted platforms and how to find extra lives and a super mushroom if you've completed the switch palaces. Chocolate Island Secret shows how to deal with the charging chucks and how to slide down slopes. Then there's Wendy's Castle, with tips on avoiding spikes and those pesky orange enemies. The page also points out a few items to find: jumping boards, prize blocks, grab blocks, switch blocks, berries, and Yoshi's wings. This page showcases Valley of Bowser from Super Mario Advance 2, giving tips for multiple levels. Sunken Ghost Ship warns about bullet bills and boos, suggesting quick movement and a superstar. Valley of Bowser 1 advises on paths and a secret level. Valley of Bowser 2 deals with bats and Yoshi's wings. Valley of Bowser 2 secret exit advises how to use yellow platforms and find a secret exit. Finally, Valley of Bowser Ghost House guides through avoiding green balls and using the switch block. The next page continues with official tips for Super Mario Advance 2. We've got the lowdown on Valley of Bowser 4, where the advice is basically to run away from those pesky charging chucks. Then it's on to Valley of Bowser 4 secret exit, where you'll need Yoshi's tongue to nab a key. Larry's Castle features some platforming tips and a warning about Kamek, who can be avoided with a cape feather. Finally, Valley of Bowser Fortress gives advice on navigating spiked poles and using Caped Mario or Luigi's floating abilities to avoid a painful demise. This page dives into Bowser's Castle in Super Mario Advance 2, giving official tips for navigating its tricky rooms and facing Bowser himself. We get advice for 8 different rooms, from outrunning falling posts and avoiding roaming nasties, to dodging fireballs and battling charging chucks. There's even a bit on surviving a frustrating maze filled with Mecha Koopas and tackling a tough underwater section. Finally, the page provides a 3-step guide to defeating Bowser, involving throwing Mecha Koopas at his head and jumping over cannonballs. Simple enough, right? Yay! People Swearington Mecha Koopas A. The next page moves on to the Special World and Star Road in Super Mario Advance 2. First, it gives tips on hidden exits within the Star Road levels, including smashing paths, swimming in hidden areas, using grab blocks and riding clouds, flying with Yoshis and using caped Mario or Luigi. Then it tackles the special world, with advice for its 8 stages. This involves climbing vines, using power balloons, hitting switches, finding Yoshi, and just plain running like crazy. Seems like a tough challenge, but with these tips you might just make it. It ends with a "you did it" to celebrate finishing the game. This page is a review of the Pokémon Mini console and some of its launch games. The console comes bundled with Pokémon Party Mini, which has 5 single-player games and 2 multiplayer titles. Hitmonchan's boxing sounds like a blast, where you shake the console, and Bellossom's dance has you copying Pokémon moves. The page then spotlights a few of the other game cartridges: Pokémon Pinball Mini, with a massive 90 stages, Pokémon Puzzle Collection, described as tough and one of the best puzzle games around, and Pokémon Zany Cards, which offers 4 games, including multiplayer options like Card Duel and Team Rocket battles. The Mini has a built-in rumble pack and an infrared sensor for multiplayer without needing a link cable, for up to 5 players. Finally, the Mini gets a game score of 90%, stating that despite being black and white, it's a fun console and games. The next page is a full-page advert for the Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius movie and video games on Game Boy Advance and PC. It urges you to have a blast and visit another galaxy with Jimmy Neutron video games. The ad features Jimmy and Carl flying through space, and a URL for the movie's website. Bon tint wast. This page features a cover promoting the awesome collection of games tested by their experts. It features the Nintendo official magazine logo as a keychain, with the word awesome in a cracked, bold red font. Visible underneath are some Nintendo 64 game boxes, including Perfect Dark. This page is a review of N64 games under the Awesome Collection. Banjo-Kazooie scores 96%, praised for its originality and controls. Banjo-Tooie gets 97%, noted for its crazy characters and puzzles. Diddy Kong Racing scores 92%, it's considered fun with great controls. Donald Duck Going Quackers scores 90%, liked for its 3D and 2D gameplay. Beetle Adventure Racing scores 91%, with well-thought-out power-ups. Conker's Bad Fur Day scores 93%, and is marked down as rudest and funniest game ever seen. Donkey Kong 64 scores 96%, and is praised for its great gameplay. Finally, there's a review of the official N64 controller and the 6T4 controller. This page continues the Awesome Collection reviews. Duke Nukem 0 Hour scores 92%, praised for its light relief and classic Duke lines. Excitebike 64 gets a 93%, it's a fun motorbike racer with great controls. ECW Hardcore Revolution gets 90%, noted for violent wrestling action. FIFA 99 gets 90%, and is considered sensational for multiplayer. F1 Racing Championship scores 90%, a fast racer with realistic handling. F1 World Grand Prix 2 also gets 90%, with great trackside detail. F-Zero X scores 92%, praised for its zero-gravity racing. GoldenEye 007 gets 94%, a Nintendo classic with replay value. The G64 controller is reviewed, priced at £14.99, and the HyperPad Plus and Trilogy 64 are briefly described. The next page of the Awesome Collection starts with ISS 98, which gets a 93% game score. It's praised as the king of multiplayer football fun and a Nintendo 64 classic, despite lacking real player names. Mario Golf scores 90% and is full of secret courses. It may not be as hectic as some other titles but offers plenty to sink your teeth into. International Track and Field gets a 94%, which is described as the perfect way to settle old scores with friends. Jet Force Gemini gets a 93% and is considered good fun with quirky multiplayer modes thrown in, despite not quite living up to GoldenEye 007. Mario Kart 64 scores 90%, it's still the finest multiplayer racing game, and you'll be laughing as you unleash blue shells on your hapless opponents. Mario Party 2 gets 91%, it's a great improvement, and one the whole family can enjoy. Lilat Wars scores 90%, it's got classic blasting and crazy power-ups. Mario Tennis scores 92%, it is wicked fun in 2-player mode. Finally, there's a Rumble Pack review at £14.99. Its rumble effect is described as the best around. There's also a review of the rechargeable Jolt Pack from Joytech, priced at £14.99. The Awesome Collection features a variety of highly rated Nintendo 64 games. Top picks include Perfect Dark, 97%, a GoldenEye 007 follow-up, and Paper Mario, 93%, a hilarious RPG. Mario Party 3 and Mickey's Speedway, USA, both score 92%, offering excellent multiplayer experiences for up to 14 players. Mortal Kombat 4 90%, delivers fluid, violent fighting for up to 115 players, while NFL Quarterback Club 90% is praised as the best American football game on the N64. Operation Winback, 90%, provides explosive action despite control issues. Also reviewed are the G64, Tremor and Memory Pack, £14.99, the Shockwave, £24.99, and the Budget Jolt Pack Rumble Pack, £6.99. These accessories offer varying levels of value for N64 enthusiasts. The next page dives into what the NOM team is currently playing, starting with Turok 2, where Rich is brushing up on his dinosaur hunting skills on the N64 gem, because Turok Evolution on the GameCube looks fantastic. Next, it's Pokemon Puzzle League, a Tetris attack-style game with a multiplayer verdict of sweaty-palmed excitement. It scores a solid 90%. Expansion, memory, and rumble pucks are, sadly, incompatible. NFL Quarterback Club 99 gets a shout-out from Tim, who's hyped about the Super Bowl and is backing the Dolphins all the way. Mark is getting his Tony Hawk skateboarding practice in, inspired by the GameCube shots of Tony. Pokemon Stadium scores a 90%. It's the game where you can battle your hand-reared Game Boy critters in glorious 3D. The best bit, according to the magazine, is that Transfer Pack is a must-have. Pokemon Stadium 2 gets a 91%, and they say just seeing all of the new Pokemon in amazing 3D will make your eyes stick out on stalks. Premier Manager 64 scores a 90%. It may seem a little dated, but the game's still totally addictive to anyone who thinks they could do the England job. Finally, there is Memory Packs, the 256k Nintendo Memory Pack at £14.99, and the 8 Meg Blaze at £14.99. The Awesome Collection features a range of highly rated N64 games. Top titles include Resident Evil 2 94%, a virus-destroying mutant fighting thriller, and Quake 2 91%, offering fast-paced 12-player multiplayer. Rayman 2 91%, tasks players with rescuing friends, while Ridge Racer 64 92% delivers arcade-style racing for up to 14 players. Other notable games are Rocket Robot on Wheels, 90%, Shadow Man, 93%, featuring Jack the Ripper, and both South Park, 90%, and South Park Rally, 90%, supporting 14 players. All games generally support expansion, memory, and rumble packs, though Ridge Racer 64's memory pack support is uncertain. The collection also offers memory packs: Logic 3, 1 meg, £5.99, Gamester, 256k, £4.99, and Joytech, 1 meg, £9.99. Games are priced between £39.99 and £49.99. This page is showcasing the Awesome Collection of N64 games. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer gets a solid 90%, with its pod racing action, fast races, and futuristic courses. Multiplayer mode is quick and feels like the Star Wars films, needing expansion, memory, and rumble packs. Star Wars Rogue Squadron scores 90% too, where you control cool vehicles in action-packed missions. Spotting Luke Skywalker's house and Jabba's palace is a highlight, needing expansion and rumble packs but not the memory pack. Super Mario 64 earns a 92% with its platforming action, injecting 3D platform fun and minigames, and needs no packs. Super Smash Bros. Also gets 90% with its multiplayer beat-em-up action where Nintendo stars duke it out but needs no packs. 1080 Degrees Snowboarding, with a rocking soundtrack and ice-cool graphics, scores 90% and has a wicked fast 2-player mode. Expansion and memory packs not needed, but rumble pack needed. Tarzan earns a 90% with its action platforming and great-looking levels, with the expansion, memory, and rumble pack supported. Tony Hawk Skateboarding gets a 90% too, with its mental tricks and multiplayer graffiti mode. Requires expansion, memory, and rumble packs. Turok 2 scores 94%, features Dino Mayhem and scary fragging, and also needs expansion, memory, and rumble packs. Finally, there's a look at some steering wheel peripherals. The Top Drive Plus from Logic 3 £59.99, and the Formula Race Pro from Thrustmaster, £49.99. Finiche Fixpentin Pentin 9. The next page continues the awesome collection on Nintendo 64 with more games. Turok Rage Wars, with a 93% score, is designed for multiplayer fragging with cool arenas and weapons. The reviewer says it's easy to control but can make you poo your pants. Expansion, memory, and rumble packs are supported. Twine gets a 92% and is a first-person shooter based on the Bond film, similar to GoldenEye 007 but not made by Rare. Gorgeous locations and excellent missions are highlights, but visuals are basic. Expansion, memory, and rumble packs are supported. WWF Attitude scores 91%, a jam-packed grapple fest with tons of wrestling options. It's a capable wrestling sim, like WWF No Mercy, with smooth wrestler animations. Expansion and rumble packs are not supported, but memory pack is supported. WWF No Mercy earns a 96%, a wrestling game full of superstars and delivers the best multiplayer playing experience. Expansion, memory, and rumble packs are supported. There's a section focusing on Tony Hawk, the skateboarding king, highlighting his achievements and the release of his first video game in 1999. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 is coming to GameCube and GBA, with rumors of a fourth game in the works. Finally, there's a look at some steering wheel peripherals. The Shock 2 from Guillemot, £39.99, V3FX Racing Wheel from Interact, £59.99, and the Race 64 Compact from Guillemot, £49.99. This page features more from the awesome collection. First up is Zelda Majora's Mask, which scores 96%. The reviewer praises the exploration, puzzles, and combat, especially enjoying the Deku Scrub Mask and beating GYORG. It supports expansion and rumble packs, but not memory packs. Next, Advance Wars for the GBA scores 91%. It's praised as a good wargame for the GBA. The reviewer highlights the 114 battle scenarios and multiplayer, deeming it a GB Advance classic. Zelda Ocarina of Time is mentioned, scoring 97%, also supporting Rumble Pack and Expansion Pack but not Memory Pack. The reviewer considers it the greatest video game ever. The page promotes the Nintendo GameCube and directs readers to page 96 for more news. The sales chart lists the top 10 games, with Excitebike 64 taking the lead. Other games include Pokémon Stadium 2, Perfect Dark, WWF No Mercy, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Pokémon Stadium, Wipeout 64, Tony Hawk's Banjo-Tooie, and Mario Kart 64. Finally, there's contact information for various game companies, including Acclaim, Activision, BBI, Blaze, Capcom, Datel, EA, Gamester, Guillemot, Infogrames, Interact, Joytech, Konami, Logic 3, Midway, Nintendo, Nyko, TDK, THQ, Ubisoft, and Virgin. Bringtin Krificha Maris. This page is an advertisement for computer and videogames.com, billing itself as the essential resource for all Nintendo gamers. The ad features a collage of various game screenshots, with the tagline, "Addicted to games." It also lists some statistics: 3,000 reviews, cutting-edge news, 12 million player rankings, exclusive interviews, 26,000 cheats, 2,600 downloads, hardware guides, 500,000 users, and 40 formats. Downmultus. The next page is from the official tips section, promising tested hints and cheats from Nintendo experts. This time, it's all about Wario Land 4 on the Game Boy Advance, with a focus on finding those groovy creds in Topaz Passage. The article suggests cranking up the sound for maximum enjoyment. There are screenshots showing the locations of the Keyjids in the Doodlewoods, Toy Block Tower, the Big Board, and Domino Row levels. For example, to get the CD in Doodlewoods, you need to smash the 4 grey blocks in the far right corner of the first area before dropping down. Then hit the portal switch. The page also has tips for Golden Sun. This page serves up some handy cheat codes for Nintendo 64 and Game Boy Advance games. First up are N64 controller icons, with instructions on how to enter codes using controller diagrams. Then for Monsters, Inc. On the GBA, there are level passwords to skip the puzzling levels. Passwords like LLCOBK take you to level 5, BYY 2 nanoliters skips to level 15, and WRG dots jump straight to level 22. Lastly, Dark Arena for the GBA gets some love with cheat codes. Entering NRYRDDS, then pressing star activates cheat mode. After that, all unlocks God mode, giving you infinite health, ammo, guns, maps and keys. If you want to skip a level, go to the map screen and press select, and if you want to turn the cheats off, type in P-word. The next page is the classic corner, with Paper Mario on the N64. It gives a quick recap on how to escape the Forever Forest. The text guides you through the maze with instructions like, go right to the laughing plants on the second path, and head left up the ramp to Bubulb to get a magical seed. There are also tips for Sonic Advance on GBA, advising you to make Tails follow you, and for Mario Kart Super Circuit on how to unlock classic Super NES tracks by winning all the cups and collecting 100 coins in each race. Also has a small blurb for Power Slide Boost. Finally, it includes a tip for Super Mario Advance on GBA, showing you how to warp to the fourth world in stage 13. This page is titled Most Requested, and it features Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on the Game Boy Advance. According to the magazine, it's an incredibly addictive skate title, and offers tips for some of the trickier tasks in the New York City course. The first section covers 5050 Joey sculpture, with screenshots showing where to ollie and grind to complete the challenge. The second section details how to wrangle the blue cow, again with screenshots and tips on how to pull off boneless or no-comply tricks on the cow statue. The page also includes a section called Cheats Unlimited that lists walkthroughs, cheats and tips for various games across different consoles like Nintendo 64, Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color and GameCube, from All-Star Baseball 2000 to Zelda, Majora's Mask. There is also a glamour shot of a woman holding a game controller in a scantily clad outfit. Finally, it has contact information for people aged 16 or over, and under 16, to call for cheat lines, and advises callers to ask permission from the bill payer, and provides a customer service number and email address. Antique Law. The next page is titled Your Tips, and it's all about readers sharing their gaming secrets and tricks. There's a section for Super Mario Advance, with Joy Smith from Sunderland providing an easy way to rack up 99 lives. The tip involves a specific level, 53, where you can use a shell to bounce against a wall and farm extra lives from dropping enemies. Next up is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 for the GBA, with Graham Simpson from Kent sharing 3 cheat codes. One code unlocks special effects like blood splashes, and another unlocks Mindy with a jetpack. Finally, there's a tip for Zero Maximum Velocity, with Y. Vanderman from London revealing a shortcut on the cloud carpet course. It involves using a boost to jump over an ice section. This page is a Your Tips section from the magazine, where readers share their gaming tips and tricks. It features solutions to reader questions for Wario Land 4 on the Game Boy Advance, where James Mewis from Trentham needs help defeating the plant boss Caractus. The guide provides a 4-step strategy to beat him. There's also a section for Banjo-Tooie, where Stephen Hurst from Headcorn is stuck in the Grunty Industries level. The tip explains how to get inside the factory by riding Chuffy the train. Finally, a reader, George Ramsden, via email, asks for help getting Epona out of the stable in Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. The guide explains the steps to complete on Romany Ranch, involving powder kegs and a tough balloon challenge. The page concludes with a call to action for readers to send in their tips and tricks to win Nintendo gear, listing an address in London. The page also has a new ways to play section, with 2 player-submitted minigame ideas for Mario Kart 64 tag, submitted by Matthew Tidman from Luton, and for Perfect Dark Balancing Act, submitted by Stephen Harris, Ipswich. The next page is all about high scores, or as the magazine puts it, your scores is changing. Apparently there haven't been any updates this month, because Nintendo Official Magazine is going through changes to herald the arrival of the GameCube. The page challenges gamers to prove their skills with some new tasks in the New Look magazine. This month's results feature Wario Land 4, tasking players to escape the big board level in the quickest time possible. Philip Jones from Hartford is the top banana, with a time of 2:43. Other top players include Kevin Walters from Swansea, Dan Kane from London, Matthew Thomas from Hull, and John Hodge from Skipton. The second game featured is Mario Kart Super Circuit on Bowser's Castle 4, 100cc, with the fastest time in a 3-lap time trial mode. Paul Davis from Peterborough is the top banana, with a time of 1 hour 31 minutes and 3 seconds. The other top racers include Frank Madison from Bath, Dom Grattan from Surrey, James Masters from Reading, and George Francis from Devon. This page is about the upcoming GameCube, teasing readers about how different the magazine will look next month with the arrival of the new console. It challenges readers to come up with ideas for a mega challenge, and to send their ideas to Nintendo Official Magazine at their London address. The page is filled with various GameCube game screenshots, and the text highlights anticipation for the new look magazine. The next page features Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance, proclaiming Jin nicked, villains vaporized and monsters mauled. It introduces the game's premise: 4 brave adventurers on a quest to stop evil Muppets from destroying the world. The contents section highlights aspects of the game such as Jin's Cracked, Synergy Masterclass, Crossbone Explored, Saturo's and Minardi Shredded, Lighthouses Raided, Deathbeard Dumped, and Weapons Mastered. The magazine claims Golden Sun is promising to be a full-on, top-quality RPG, right up there with the likes of Zelda and Final Fantasy. It also briefly introduces the Jin, explaining there are 28 to be found, representing the elements of fire, earth, wind, and water. A map of the world is included with locations marked. This page presents a map of the world in Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance, marking locations for 28 Jin, which are categorized by the elements of Venus/Earth, Mars/Fire, Jupiter/Wind, and Mercury/Water. The page provides a brief description of each Jin and instructions on where to find them. For example, Flint, Venus/Earth, gives you a powerful strike to pulverize stone. Forge, Mars/Fire, fires up your adventuring party's attack. Gust, Jupiter/Wind, blasts a strong gale at a single foe. And Granite, Venus/Earth, protects your gang of heroes with a strong earth barrier. The next page is an official tips section for Golden Sun. It delves into blunt instruments and synergy. The page covers the best weapons for each party member, like Isaac's Gaia Blade, found in Venus Lighthouse, which unleashes the Titan Blade attack, and Garrett's Muramasa, found on Crossbone Isle, which unleashes Demon Fire. Also covered is Ivan's Kikuchimonji sword, dropped randomly by Fenris in Venus Lighthouse, and Mia's Crystal Rod, bought in Lalvero. The page also explains synergy, the magic used by Isaac and his friends, and how it is affected by the number and elemental type of Jin. Reassigning Jin will affect a character's synergy. Also, character classes affect synergy, with class changes depending on how many Jin are set to each hero. Finally, the page mentions summoning monsters by putting Jin on standby, and it is best to have party members keep their Jin on standby at all times, except MIA. There are easier ways to get synergy powers by using items found in treasure chests or bought at stores. The next page continues with official tips for Golden Sun, focusing on Crossbone Isle. It advises visiting the isle before entering Venus Lighthouse, ideally at level 26 or higher, emphasizing the worth of retracing steps. The guide starts from Suhala Gate, directing players westward through the desert, navigating wind-whipped areas. It notes the Flash Jin can be acquired by using Reveal. The page directs players to a pink tornado that transports them to Crossbone Isle, and to avoid using douse on it. Once on the isle, players need to head for a horseshoe-shaped crater, using growth on vines to climb. The tips cover navigating the Crossbone Isle cave, dropping through a hole on the left and using Whirlwind, and dealing with puzzle rooms guarded by monsters. Level 4 summons are recommended. The guide gives puzzle tips for specific rooms, like using Catch for blue keys, and Reveal for the red key in room 3, and Halt on statues in room 4. Also included is using Carry to lift blocks in room 7, and Frost for ice platforms in room 8. The page concludes with instructions on how to get the Muramasa sword in room 9, and direction after exiting, advising to go left to meet Boss Deadbeard. This page continues the official tips section, with the Mercury Lighthouse walkthrough for Golden Sun. The guide provides step-by-step instructions, from reaching the lighthouse after visiting Imil, to navigating its dangerous dungeons and puzzles. It highlights specific actions like moving statues, using synergy abilities such as Ply and Move, and manipulating water flow. It also points out key items like the synergy armor and mentions battles, including one against Sleep Jin, and that MIA joins the party permanently. The final step directs players to use Ply to reach the top of the lighthouse to face Saturos and Minardi for the first time. The next page dives into more Golden Sun tips, this time tackling Venus and Babi lighthouses. The Venus Lighthouse section starts after passing through Suhala Gate, warning of battered guards and advising players to head through the main entrance. Key actions include using Reveal on a tree pattern to uncover a secret room with the Carry Stone. The Babi Lighthouse walkthrough begins north of Lalivero and guides players through log pathways, pillar puzzles requiring strategic movement, and the use of growth on a vine. The guide also mentions finding the Jinluff, using carry-on blocks, and casting reveal to discover new entrances. Finally, it directs players to jump across platforms in a specific pattern to reach the door to Venus Lighthouse. This page is all about conquering the Venus Lighthouse in Golden Sun, Part 2. It's a step-by-step visual guide, with numbered screenshots. It covers puzzles involving moving pillars, using whirlwind on doors and leaves, and employing carry to weigh down platforms. There are also sections on using mind read on statues, navigating sand rivers, and pressing switches to alter the flow of sand. The ultimate goal seems to be reaching the top, grabbing a synergy stone, and jumping down a crevice with no turning back. They even cheekily suggest a detour to Crossbone Isle, if you've missed anything. This page is all about beating the bosses in Golden Sun on the Game Boy Advance. The guide details strategies for taking down Deadbeard Satiros and Minardi and the Fusion Dragon. It's a tough fight for sure, but the magazine gives players the tips to win. The page offers helpful advice on Jin usage, synergy attacks, and when to use healing items like Wish Well. And, as the page notes, finishing the game is just the start. Layut. This page kicks off with Club Mario, showcasing reader letters and news about the Nintendo scene. The page features the launch of the GameCube, with readers already buzzing about questions. It also touches on the Game Boy Advance, and the new address at the top of the page. The magazine then poses questions about the Nintendo 64 controllers, and the 3D stick. Other topics discussed include Mario Kart for the GameCube, and the possibility of a Grand Theft Auto 3 game for the GameCube. There's a mention of a Golden Sun website which is worth checking out. Readers Rich and Tim offer their opinions on the matter. This page dives into the non-poll, where readers share their thoughts on the cel-shaded Zelda. A whopping 73% aren't keen on the new look, while 27% are more positive. The comments range from concern over innovation to excitement about the visual style. The magazine then poses a question: has the lack of a Mario launch title put you off buying a GameCube? This page blasts off with Blagfest, promising a Bionicle Bonanza alongside other goodies. There's a giveaway for LEGO Bionicle Quest for the Toa for Game Boy Advance, with some Borok figures thrown in for good measure. The question is posed: what's the name of the island? The article hypes up the Bionicle universe, setting the scene with a tale of ancient spirits, slumbering heroes, and those pesky Borok. It sounds like a right proper adventure. This page is a treasure trove of competitions. You've got a chance to win Jackie Chan action figures by correctly naming a movie, a Simpsons Film Festival video, and even spy gear to channel your inner James Bond. Get those answers in by April 18, 2002. Good luck, and may the best gamers win. This page dives into the world of Die Hard Next Generation for the GameCube. Get ready to channel your inner John McClane. This first-person shooter promises action, stealth, and cool maneuvers. The article highlights the new story, stealth gameplay, and the potential of the GameCube. This page is all about Die Hard Next Generation. It showcases screenshots of the game, highlighting action-packed moments and the intense gameplay. The reviewer seems impressed, calling the graphics superb and praising the strong story and characters. They reckon it's taking cues from GoldenEye 007. The game's enemies are also intelligent, so players are in for a challenge. This page blasts onto the scene with Burnout for the GameCube. This is a high-speed racer promising awesome crashes. The review reckons it's more than just cartoon kart racing, which is a good start. Screenshots show off the action, and the reviewer's keen on the arcade feel. They suggest forgetting Mario Kart for a bit, as Burnout is serious fun. The magazine seems hyped, stating it's one of the best races they've seen in ages, and giving us a glimpse of the serious road rage on the horizon. This page kicks off with Driven, a racing sim for the GameCube, set to release on May 3rd. It boasts 8 tracks and 2-player action. The magazine notes the game lets you take on traffic at high speeds. Screenshots show off the driving views. Next up is Vex, a GameCube adventure. The game has some new screenshots. The quest involves saving villages and battling enemies. The article mentions the Astani battle gauntlets being a key game feature. Fast News reveals several updates. The creators of NBA Courtside have left Nintendo. Nintendo is finally embracing the arcade scene, teaming up with Sega and Namco. Virtua Striker 3 is coming to GameCube soon. Futurama is also heading to the Cube. Finally, Spy Hunter, the arcade classic, is making a retro comeback on the GameCube. This page is all about the upcoming 2002 FIFA World Cup on the GameCube. EA Sports is promising a game that brings the excitement of the world's greatest footballing competition to your home. You can expect all the teams, stadiums, and even some star players represented with lifelike detail. They've simplified the controls, so you can get straight into the action. There's also a sneak peek at Turok Evolution, showing off its impressive dinosaur flying sequences and gameplay. This page is all about the latest news in the gaming world. Donald Duck Quack Attack is coming to the GameCube, promising a 3D adventure where Donald has to rescue Daisy from the villainous Murloc. The article notes improved graphics and more speech samples than the N64 version. Another game mentioned is The Lord of the Rings, which will be released on the Game Boy Advance. There is also news of a Universal Studios game for the GameCube, and a new Ridge Racer and Shrek kart racing game coming to the Game Boy Advance. The reviewer is unsure about the Donald Duck game being an innovation or just another jump and bounce title. This page is all about Bloody Roar Extreme for the GameCube. It's a beat-em-up, and the article highlights the improved graphics and larger fighting arenas compared to the PS2 version. There are new characters and interactive elements in the arenas, allowing for more dynamic battles. The reviewer seems optimistic, suggesting it's a competent brawler with enough originality to warrant a purchase. This page is a bold statement. It's an advert for Kerrang! Magazine, with the provocative headline, "Kill All Boy Bands." The ad promises a free video with the issue, which goes on sale March 20th. It features bands like Slipknot, Lost Prophets, and Nickelback among others. It's a clear message for fans of heavier music, with the magazine available every Wednesday. This page dives into the aerial combat of Top Gun Combat Zones for the GameCube. The game, based on the hit movie, promises intense flight missions and awesome graphics. The review suggests the game might not have mass appeal, but if the developers deliver on the control system, missions, and weapons that flight sim fans crave, it could become a cult classic. Screenshots showcase the action, including dogfights and city-level flying, with the reviewer hoping the cheesy 80s soundtrack gets dropped. This page showcases the NBA Courtside 2002 for the GameCube. It boasts awesome player detail and innovative gameplay. The page features screenshots of in-game action, highlighting the turbocharged moves and the use of the caustic for passing. The reviewer seems impressed, noting the game's authentic feel and the impressive graphics. They believe it's a must-have for basketball fans. Also, there is a sneak peek at Battle Haoshin, a game that takes you back to ancient China. It looks promising but might not see a Western release. This page is brimming with GBA goodness. First up, we've got Wizards, a sequel promising deep gameplay with a mix of RTS, arcade, and puzzle elements. The magazine thinks it's shaping up to be rather special. Then, it's Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, where you can play as Anakin Skywalker, battling it out in various gameplay styles. Also featured of Rally 3 on the GBA, promising near PlayStation quality graphics, and the golden days of Sega returning to the small screen with Sega Smash Pack, featuring classics like Golden Axe and Echo the Dolphin. Finally, the Jet Riders are getting ready to soak the opposition, and Worms team up for a double-pronged attack on GB Advance. This page is a vibrant mix of gaming offers and advertising, perfect for any Nintendo fan back in the day. Dial a Prize is offering the chance to win a GameCube, Game Boy Advance, or even a PS1 with 100 quid in games. There's also a shot at some DBZ action figures and videos. It also features a full-page advert promoting KingCat, a place to order games. The bottom half features the withdrawn stamp, a reminder of the Advertising Standards Authority's role. This page is a full-page advert for the Nintendo official magazine, hyping up the arrival of the GameCube and Game Boy Advance coverage. It teases new reviews and previews, and a chance to win one of 10 UK GameCubes. This page is the back cover, a sleek and simple design. It features a vibrant yellow hexagon with a stylized AG cut out against a solid black background. This striking design is a minimalist logo for GameCube, hinting at its revolutionary, geometric forms and the cutting-edge gaming experience it will bring. This page features a full-page profile on WWF superstar Billy Kidman. It includes a photo of the wrestler, his stats like height and weight, and some interesting facts about him such as his real name and a story about Chris Jericho attempting his finishing move and breaking his arm. This page is bursting with deals and game announcements. It showcases the launch of the Nintendo GameCube on May 3rd, with various bundles available. There is a massive list of Game Boy Advance titles and GameCube games like Luigi's Mansion and Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. The page also highlights Special Reserves Discount Network and offers a free trial membership. Plus, there are amazing club shop locations. It's a gamer's paradise. This page is a full-page advertisement for Pocket Music, a music creation tool for the Game Boy Advance. It features a Game Boy Advance wearing oversized headphones set against a vibrant, fiery background. The ad promises the ability to make music on the move, highlighting features like mixing, cutting, and editing. It also boasts a track featuring My Name Is, originally recorded by Eminem.